If you're familiar with custom cars from the 40s and 50s, a custom car usually has been chopped. Chop a few inches off the roof, give it a nice slick look, slant the poles, just make it different than any other Merc that's out there.
Everybody knows Jesse. He does, he does the best chops. I think personally the best chops around.
I was born and raised here in South LA. I got into the gangs scene at a real young age. Thank God that from a child I've always been into cars, so I had something to turn to. My name is Jesse Castillo, owner of Lordz of Customs. Been in this business roughly 14 years now as an actual business.
Some people are born with a passion. My cousin was born with a car passion.
Since he was a little boy, he started with his special love for cars. He said, "Mom, don't buy me a car. Buy me a little parts." So he started building it in the house with the little tools that he used. And he was painting different designs on these little cars.
Built my first car when I was about 15 years old. I bought a 1955 Mercury from an old lady. I brought the car home. I drove it around for maybe a week. It just wasn't me. So I decided to make it my own. Brought out some of my dad's tools, started cutting the roof, started chopping the car. I still remember the first car that I built. I started spending the weeks or weekends at a girl's house, and I would come back home, and my dad would be like, "What do you do with that car?" Because I wasn't driving the car no more, I was just sitting there. One day I come home, my car's not there. One day, one of my friends calls me up, and like, "Hey bro, your car is here at the pick-apart, the junkyard." I'm like, "What?" I drove out to the pick-apart, and sure enough, my car's sitting there on brakes, fully stripped at the pick-apart. I nearly cried right there.
Did you ever talk to your dad about that moment?
Oh no, I could not. Yeah, you could not talk to him about stuff like that. My dad was a real somebody you would not want to. This is my father sitting here next to me, Jesse Sr. He has Alzheimer's, unfortunately. And the reason I'm here, I spend every Sunday with him because I only have one father. He might have not been the ideal father. You know, my father was, I could probably say, at least for me, one of the worst fathers. My father was a hard worker when he first came to this country, and he was a hustler. As I was growing up, he got into making money an easier way, you could say, and he got really good at it. So he started living a very crazy life. He controlled most of the drug trafficking that came in back in the late 70s and 80s to the late 90s. When he started with that, we kind of lost our father. It started off like everybody, you know, you start off way at the bottom and you just move up. And he was the type of person that I would wanted more. He was very well respected in that community. When I really started opening my eyes to it, I was probably maybe 12, 13 years old, and I started getting involved in it. I remember I would drop off money for him. And when I say money, it would be a 24-pack of beer full with nothing but $100 bills, you know, and I would just go and drop it off. We lived just in a regular home in South LA. My dad was never somebody who showed off what he had. You wouldn't know what he done with just meeting him. He owned his bars, so that's where anybody who didn't really know him would think that's where he gets his money from. One of the main bars was closed down because the insurance companies weren't insuring it anymore because of all the killings that would happen at the bar. He would close down the bar. Him and his people would be there doing their business, and they would stay there for 2 or 3 days. Nobody went in, nobody went out until whatever was getting done got done. And I would be ordered to sit outside the bar in a regular car across the street, me and a partner with fully loaded semi-automatic weapons, and our orders were to shoot if anybody came out. I was brought up to whatever he said, you do. You know, you didn't ask questions. Sometimes you knew that whatever it was something bad or something, you know, that was not right, but you got to do it anyways. If it wasn't for cars, honestly, I honestly could say I'd either be locked up or buried.
Growing up teenagers, we had it pretty good. We were like the coolest kids. My cousin had the coolest ride. Everybody knew the Mustang. It was a red convertible 67.
I remember I was young. I didn't have money for hydraulics, which was the thing to have. I cut out the springs on the car and I put 2x4s standing upright in between the A-arms and the frame, and drove around with the car with wood in between where the springs originally go, so the car looked like it had hydraulics. And I would come to a stoplight to where all the local car clubs were having their meetings at, and they would all turn around and look, wow, you know, look at that car, you know? And then they'd be like, look at that little kid driving it. And as soon as I would get everybody's attention, the light would turn green, and I would give my car gas, the car would take off, the blocks would fall, so the car would slam to the floor, and I'd drive away, and everybody was like, man, that kid has hydraulics on. Little they know that all I had was a piece of 2x4 underneath my suspension. You know, I think the cars came because it was my way of finding myself. I remember the very last time that I cried to my father. I was about 6, 7 years old. I was flying a kite. We usually ride by the railroad tracks. My kite got stuck on a tree. The neighbor kids, bullies, they came and said, if we get the kite down, it's our kite. One of them picked up a railroad spike and threw it at me and split my face open. And I remember as a child, I'd run home to my father, full of blood and crying, and father turned around and pulled out a rope and whipped me until I said, don't you ever come to me crying. After that, I would never, any problems I had, any issues I had, I wasn't going to my father. One of the memories that I could say really stuck to me, till this day. He was missing some money. He accused me. He accused me of taking some of his money. No. Unfortunately, it was one of my little sisters. So he took it out on me. Excuse me. He put 357 to my head and took me out of the house. I was probably about 16 at the time. And after that, I swore that I would never talk to him again. I moved out of the house, didn't come back. It took a few years for us to reconnect. And once we reconnected, it was more of a business than a father and son relationship. I got into his business. I started running the streets for him, and I got caught up in that lifestyle. Eventually caught up with me. Feds were on me. I got raided. And my oldest daughter, which was my only daughter at the time, she was probably about 3 years old, and I remember the day I got raided, my daughter was with me, and I remember giving my daughter a hug. I didn't know when I would see her again. At that point, it was when I realized, is this worth it? Is this really worth the money, worth the, So at that point, I said, you know what? No more. I'm done. I jumped into a big rig and I became a truck driver. But I still had the love for the cars. I still worked on cars, on my own personal cars at home. I would be out there doing my 10-hour shift, come home, work on the cars. People driving by would see my cars and they would come by and ask what I would charge to do a chop or to do airbags or whatever it might be. I had no clue what to charge. And I would say, yeah, man, I'll do it for you, whatever you want to pay me. Within a year, it turned in from a hobby to a business. Now it pays for my roof and food on my table. And been doing it since.
He's always trying to outdo himself, building extreme and beautiful cars.
We're building a car for a customer in Dubai right now. Never even met the person, and his build is like probably the most expensive build we've done. Building him a 49 Mercury, a little bit over 200 grand.
Jesse's done so good, He's improved so much in life, and it showed us a lot. Showed us a lot that, you can still be in the neighborhood and be successful,
To this day, my cousin still is helping his community by taking in kids who are trouble kids and showing them a trade, either welding, cutting, or whatever. He's helping his community in a big way.
City of Los Angeles has recognized the shop and myself for helping out the community. A lot of people know that I like to help out the youth around here and stuff, try to get them out of the neighborhood gangs. And that was a real nice recognition from them in the last 3 years we received them.
I come right after school and on Saturdays to come help out. I'm not in the gangs or any of that stuff. I'm always over here.
When I got caught up in the business, the money came and went, but just the way it came, it went with no problem. It just, you didn't even see the money. I wasn't enjoying the money, I wasn't enjoying my life. I was gotta be watching your back. You didn't know who your real friends were. You had friends around you all the time because of the money, because of the drugs, because of, the lifestyle. As soon as all that disappeared, everybody disappeared. Now with the business, it's something that I enjoy doing. I make good money, I make decent money. I don't make the money I was making then, but I make enough to put a roof over my head, enough for my kids to eat, and I enjoy my life.